Hey everyone, this is Enrico from JBA University, and I'm here with Jonathan Pines from Rupert Neve Designs.
Hey friends, how you doing today?
So we have the Master Bus Transformer and the Newton Channel, which both very recently came out.
We're excited about both these products. They do slightly different things, but we really like what they do, and I think it's an exciting introduction for us.
Definitely. What do we have? We have the Master Bus Transformer and the slightly less new Newton Channel.
Correct. Newton Channel being primarily a channel strip, but you really want to think of it as something you can use through the entire process of recording. You can use it if you're recording drums on kick and snare. And everybody knows if you have a good kick and snare sound, you can kind of get away with a less good tom and cymbal thing. Sorry to drummers. But if you do have a good kick and snare sound, at least it's going to sound like good drums. So a great place to start with that. Wonderful on bass, but also wonderful for electric guitar, vocal overdubs, acoustic guitar overdubs. So you can think of it as fitting into many places because it's also really cool on the stereo bus or as a hardware insert in your DAW. So unlike just buying a good mic preamp, because you've got the full features of a channel strip, you can use this at 3 different points at least in your recording process. We've also have people who love to bounce through it. Like they've recorded stuff before and it's a mixed situation and they might bounce individual channels individually through it as a hardware insert to fix or enhance a bunch of different things and then put it on the stereo bus.
Okay. Are the knobs are detented across the board for both?
Everything on the front panel is detented, also as on the MBT. Every control is detented for repeatability.
And I think I saw a stereo link on the back.
Correct. There's a stereo link on the back. It's as simple as inserting a relatively short, meaning 3 to 6 foot TRS to TRS.
Does one become like is it like a master-slave situation or?
No, unlike the MBP, which has very sophisticated circuitry designed to say I only have to adjust one side, that was outside the target price point for this. So in that case, like most stereo activities with a link function, you want to set both controls, i.e. the left and right controls, to be the same. And then it's seeing the priority based on how loud something is in either the left or right channel, and causing equal compression amounts triggered by whatever the dominant level is. One of the things that's important about the Newton channel is we wanted to make really sure that we didn't do any audio compromises in it. Every control on the front panel is detented. It uses the same pots, it uses the same transformers, in fact, it has the output section from the Shelford Channel in it. What we did was simplify the control and feature set to be able to meet a price point, but 0 audio compromise. That was hugely important to Rupert and the team.
So there are no cheaper or lesser quality components?
Nothing is cheaped out about this. It just has a little bit easier to use, a little bit less complicated set of controls for most of the features. And look, I'll walk through it and then I'll talk about a contrast with the Shelford Channel as well, because that's another question that people tend to ask. What's the difference between the two? Starting with the Class A microphone preamp, and that's really where all Rupert Neve Designs stuff starts, is a wonderful Class A mic preamp with 72 dB of gain. Why 72 dB of gain? If you want to use, say, one of the more popular dynamic microphones, we'll call it the SM7B, wonderful microphone, but doesn't put out a ton of level. There's a whole industry to put with add-on boxes for that. With 72 dB of gain, you don't ever need that. That's enough gain to run anything, any ribbon, any dynamic microphone. There's a fine trim control here. That's actually, you'll see it in steps up to 66, and then the plus and minus 6 here allows you to get the additional 6 dB to get up to 72.
If I'm running line in, does the signal start here or is it after that even?
No, it's in both. So in other words, you can add more line gain through this, and I'll actually show you this in a little bit, how to push in with this, and then the trim is still active as well.
Okay.
Next up, we have a high-pass filter. High-pass filters are really important for getting the mud or the grunge out of things that don't need them. Let's call it high frequencies. Also useful, you know, they're also nicely interactive with equalizers as well. You can bump up at a higher frequency on the equalizers, knock out a little bit with a high-pass filter, and get that classic bump in, and not just a pure shelf. So there's some cool things you can do. Next up, we have a capacitance-based EQ, and I'll get into why that's important here in a second. Two frequencies available on the low frequencies, really designed to be able to push low end in a really appealing and smooth manner. This is the widest swept EQ we've ever put on a product. You know, that sweep all the way up to 7K from all the way down there is really important. We're going to listen to that and see. It's a little bit more narrow than some of our other products because it is designed for carving with an EQ and be able to make changes to your sound.
Are the frequency choices in all three sections, I should say, like I know with Shelford, it's kind of like the greatest hits as far as the EQ points. Is that kind of trickled down into this too?
Interestingly enough, the high frequency here has the same two EQ points in very similar design to the Shelford Channel. They're really chosen by an intense amount of listening. One of the things that is wonderful about the company that I'm fortunate enough to work for is the fact that they listen endlessly to things. And Rupert really taught the engineering team how to do this, and they would do extensive listings. He would listen to 3 or 4 days of at a time before he would make a commitment to saying, okay, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. Listen to tons of different material, and taught the whole team how to critically listen in a really wonderful fashion. It's not that they didn't already know how to do that, but he really taught them to listen through his lens, which is a very particular and exacting one. So again, very broadly swept EQ here. Then a shelving EQ here, again with two wonderful frequency points chosen, 8 kilohertz and 16 kilohertz. We're moving on to a VCA, sorry.
Whoa, you said...
Oh, wait, there's more.
You call this a capacitance EQ. What is that? Okay,
so the Shelford Channel uses what's called an inductor EQ. Inductors are basically a form of coreless transformers. They're a mini transformer.
More transformers than you guys, like big surprise.
Yeah. Crazy idea there. But think of transformers as inductors as really broad strokes. Probably the most famous example of an inductor EQ would be a Pultec.
Okay.
So more like huge tone controls, not surgical at all. We wanted to have the best of both worlds here. Capacitance EQs tend to be much more narrow or adjustable in that sense, and tend to be a little bit more linear. But we wanted the bigness of the sound of an inductor EQ, even though these are capacitance EQ, with the more surgical control in the bin band to be able to bring things out or dip them out as needed.
Okay. Now you can tell me about the compressor. Sorry to cut you off before.
Not at all. And since we're talking about the contrast, we'll dip into this a little bit more as well. The Shelford Channel has a Dow bridge compressor. Dow bridge compressor is renowned for its tonality and the fact that it is more vibey in its character.
I mean, that's like the Rupert style compressor. Like, I can't think of a better way to put it.
And it has a noticeable coloration. It's not possible to get it to be really pure and clean sounding. It's always going to have attitude. We wanted in the Newton channel to actually bring the same compression style and many of the features from the master bus processor. So a somewhat cleaner style, or the ability to be cleaner, but still offer a lot of compression and cool sound. One of the things on this, it has a somewhat reduced feature set. Again, trying to reach that price point to make it more available for everybody and also easier to use, frankly. The Dow bridge compressor has a lot of controls. You can get yourself into the weeds here. It's pretty cool. It sounds good in almost any setting. So, we have the obvious threshold control, which is where compression starts. Then we have a very variable release control here. It's nominally a fixed attack time. It's nominally fixed in the 10 to 20 millisecond range. Gets a little bit more extreme as the harder you hit it. And it also has a fixed ratio.
More extreme in what sense? Like it low? Faster, okay.
And same thing on the ratio. It's nominally a 3/1 ratio. The harder you push into it, the ratio might be a little bit steeper as that happens. Then you have makeup gain here. And you have a switch to be able to put the EQ before or after the compressor. Classic style is mic pre EQ compressor.
Which is how it's
laid out. And why is that? So that you can actually, your compression is controlling the effects or the additional gain or lack of gain from the equalizer.
Okay, so, talking with you already, I'm going to guess that this gain knob also functions as a drive into the next section, right?
It functions as both an output level control and a drive into the silk itself. So anyway, just to finish that up, you can move the compressor before the EQ if you do more extreme things with the compressor and then want to maybe EQ the results of that. There isn't a right or wrong way to do that. It's really a personal choice and it's a creative choice.
Yeah.
So the next section, we actually have silk red and silk blue and the output section from the Shelford channel. So you have, of course, the ability to choose red or blue and fully detented, like every control on the front panel of this, 100% detented for repeatability and accuracy. And on the back you have the double output, and I refer to it, it's just me, as the double tap output on the Shelford channel. So you've got, on the Newton channel, same thing. You have a 0 dBu output and a -6 dBu output. Why do you need two outputs?
Safety.
That's actually one of the cool creative features of it, that you can print something at what you think is the right level and then print the other output, and you have something 6 dB below. You're recording a vocal. Sometimes vocals the magic only happens once. You might want to have a safety channel with that. You might also choose to further process one of the channels and leave one pristine and clean. But another big feature of this is because you're able to push a lot of level through this, and because, again, harking back to what we talked about a little bit in the MBT, a lot of the big console and big mic preamp sound comes from pushing the output transformer. The only problem with pushing the output transformer into a lot of bus-powered interfaces is that they can only handle about plus 21 dBu on the input side, not plus 24 and even a little bit above that all of our gear is capable of putting out. So the reason that Rupert came up with this was a way to have something that was driving full level pro gear that might be able to take plus 24 or plus 26, and then other gear that can only handle plus 20, plus 21. You're still able to drive the output tap of that transformer and get all those cool saturation effects, but you're not creaming the level.
There's no sonic compromise going out the minus.
They are identical sounding. It is just 6 dB lower in level. They both saturate. Obviously, the -6 saturates earlier in terms of level.
Yeah.
So that way you can get all the love of saturating the output transformer at a lower level.
So one's not going to have more output transformer saturation versus the other.
The the -6 tap will achieve that same level of saturation as the 0, but it's going to happen at a 6 dB lower gain point. So in other words, it is going to happen faster because of, it's the first thing that would saturate, and then the higher output tap would have 6 dB more headroom. So think of it as headroom.
Okay.
Headroom before the saturation is happening. And we didn't talk that much about silk, so let's talk a little bit about silk, because that's a question that comes up all the time. What is silk? What's it doing? Is it an equalizer? Is it a distortion box? Okay, technically anything that changes the sound is a form of distortion.
Yeah.
But in this case, silk is additional harmonics. And one of the genius things that Rupert is able to do here is to choose the frequency weighting of the harmonics. In other words, are these low frequency weighted harmonics or high frequency weighted harmonics, high and mid frequencies? So silk red is mid and high frequencies. Silk blue is predominantly low frequency harmonics. This is something that only Rupert and Rupert Neve Designs have ever been able to do. It's a custom thing that we do with our custom transformers. That's why people can't copy it and why you don't see it in anything else. And what's really amazing about it is it's still measuring dead flat from maybe, let's say, 10 hertz to 100 kilohertz, but it feels like it's got way more low frequency energy, or it's more forward in the mid-range and high frequencies.
You mind showing me what this sounds like on guitar?
Absolutely. Let's start with just listening to the fact that just turning up a bit of low frequency EQ, it's only got a warmer, noticeably different guitar. Now this is where it gets fun. I told you that the EQ was really carvable. As I sweep it up,
get into like the ice pick territory, like the 4K area.
Not hurting at all. And that's why we have a compressor. Let's turn that on. See, we're hitting pretty significant amounts of compression. Really didn't change the tone at all. Still feels very dynamic. Let's turn on some silk. I know you're a red silk person, so let's see what happens with some red silk on this. Since I'm a blue silk person, noticeable difference on there.
Especially when you're cranking it that much.
Where did all our good sound go?
It's like there's a blanket on it now.
Run that one more time, and I'm going to play a little bit of games with pushing into it. Go ahead and run it again. So same settings. Backing down a little bit here, but let's go up a click here. Pushing a lot more here. Silk red's behaving a little bit differently as the silk blue.
And that's like anything with silk from you guys, right?
So it's just the difference between going up 6 dB more drive level there. You can of course trim it off. Definitely something to play around with and experiment with. Again, also even on a stereo mix, you're going to notice really cool effects from that.
Now, if I were to put silk on my stereo bus with a pair of these, is that something?
You're going to want to match them. Same color silk.
Yeah.
We've had people do that a little bit differently, and you're going to get stereo imbalance.
If I were to put, both silk reds, is that something that's going to can help my mix just get like a little bit, like go up in lufs and get perceived louder?
Yes, it definitely will be, because it will add a very minor amount of actual volume, but in terms of what you're saying, you're really correct. It's going to be perceived as being more forward and coming out.
And that's more so with red than blue, or both will give you that perception?
Both. It's just what frequency ranges they're going to be affecting.
Okay, cool. As far as, looking at a Newton versus a Shelford, I know we touched on that a little bit.
Let's talk. Let me go very quickly over kind of the main differences. So the Shelford has what's called a transformer gain preamp. So the first 15 dB of gain come from the step up of the mic transformer. So in other words, it's pushing into the mic transformer automatically, or it's using its ratio or the step up to push the transformer itself. The Shelford Channel has an inductor EQ. So again, Pultec-like broad strokes, not narrow surgical activity, but big things. I want more low end. I want the mid-range to pop out. I want more high end. The Shelford Channel has a diode bridge compressor. Again, generally a relatively colored device designed to be a little bit more aggressive. You might lean a little heavier on the parallel compression aspects with that. The Newton Channel has a preamp that's kind of a little bit of a supercharged form of our 5211 or 511. Okay. So if you're familiar with that, you're going to obviously love this. It might have had a little bit of tweak involved there. Then you have a capacitance EQ and a VCA-based compressor. So really definite sound differences between all the aspects of them. But both share the Shelford output section and silk red, silk blue.
So actually this just crossed my mind. Since this is a fast VCA compressor, if somebody were to recreate some kind of like classic channel strip where you're stacking compression, going at hit this into the color comp would probably be cool, right?
Yes, because you're going to again notice two different types of compressions adding different, considerably different sonic effects from that.
Thank you guys for watching. This has been JBA University, today here with Jonathan Pines from Rupert Neve Designs. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. Don't forget to do all the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that fun stuff. If you have more questions on anything Rupert Neve Designs, you can reach out to us, and Jonathan will help me get you an answer if I can't do it myself.
This has been great, Enrico. Thank you so much for having us in today.
It's been awesome having you. I wish we had more time because I have so many more questions for you. But thank you, and thank you for watching. See ya.